Boomer, baby. Boomer freaking Sooner. Oklahoma gets their 2026 quarterback committed. And for those who try to discredit the 2026 and 2027 kids that you might get committed in your classes because we're not there yet, it's not important, not relevant. I'm going to explain to you why this is so important and why Jaden O'Neal is a big time get for Oklahoma on the recruiting trail. And Oklahoma, they're one of the top classes so far in 2026 with 3 commits. So it's starting off to be a pretty good class there for Oklahoma. Before we jump into it, though, we're going to be having Jaden O'Neal on the podcast here sometime in July. So I want you all to drop your questions below that you want asked to Jaden O'Neal. I'm going to start documenting those, saving those, and we're going to filter out the best questions to ask Jaden O'Neal in that sit-down interview. Who knows? It might just be in person. But Jaden O'Neal is a 4-star prospect here in the 2026 cycle. He's 6'3", which I want to be honest with y'all. When you see him in person, he looks a little bit taller than 6'3", maybe closer to 6'4", and listen, 200 pounds. It's a strong 200 pounds. But looking at Jaden O'Neal and the prospect that he is, listen, he is going to be a 5-star prospect when it's all said and done. And you all, if you've been watching the show, you guys know when he came into the camp, we talked a lot about it. He was a guy that the camp was off to a good start with Peyton Houston and guys like that there already. When Jaden O'Neal walked in, the tone completely changed. The atmosphere in the room changed. And you saw the elite aspects that we've heard so much about with Jaden O'Neal. And let me tell you, as I said before, the wide receiver pool that day wasn't the best, mainly because a lot of the kids were just younger and the talent needed to be refined a little bit. Like, I think that 2027 and 2028 group of kids potentially could be really good. They just need to get some more experience under the belt, and that comes with time. But because of that, the talent pool wasn't great. So there were a lot of quarterbacks that were throwing really good passes. They were just not being caught by the wide receivers or the tight ends. Now, Jaden O'Neal, on the other hand, when you watched him throw these balls and you saw him throw these passes, one, beautiful spiral, but two, he was straight dropping dimes. And multiple times did I see him complete passes that I didn't think the wide receiver or the tight end were going to get to, but Jaden O'Neal found a way to get it to that specific receiver or tight end. So Jaden O'Neal is going to be a prospect that you get him here on campus with Oklahoma. I think he's probably, as soon as his time is going to be a big-time player for the University of Oklahoma. Now, this comes into question, does Kevin Sperry ever play for the University of Oklahoma in a starting role? And this has kind of been a hot topic since the other day when we originally talked about this. And I want to clarify some thoughts here real quick while you guys watch some film of Jaden O'Neal, and then we'll get right back into that commitment. I think Kevin Sperry's a great quarterback. And I think if the cards align correctly, he can play at Oklahoma. And I think he's going to come to Oklahoma and he's going to compete for this job. But I think Jaden O'Neal's athleticism, the ability to make plays outside of the pocket, and his deep ball is just so accurate. I think Jaden O'Neal, it's his job to lose at that point, I think. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he's still in high school. He's a 2026 prospect. Like, he's just going into his junior year. I get it. But multiple times when you watch the film where you see him in person, like Jaden O'Neal, Cooper over at Unfair Sports was alluding to it. He looks like a Jameis Winston, right? In terms of the ability to throw the ball. And I had somebody else drop this in the comments the other day, but somebody the other day said he kind of looks like he has a little bit of athleticism of Cam Newton, which might be a little bit of a stretch because Cam Newton was freaking baller, but maybe a Jalen Hurts athleticism. So if you took a Jalen Hurts athleticism and ability to move the ball with your feet and combine that with the Jameis Winston ability to pass the ball, you're talking about not only a 5-star prospect, but you're potentially talking about a true Heisman potential candidate. Now, again, it's really early to talk about that because he's 2026. What we can talk about, though, is his ability and respect that he gets from from current peers that he has on the recruiting trail, whether it's in 25 or 26, to listen to him and potentially want to join up with him. Like, I know we've talked to the family multiple times and people in the camp. Like, Jaden O'Neal is getting that respect from multiple prospects. And I said this the other day. Emmett Jones did a really good job with landing Marcus Harris. Do you really think it was a coincidence that Marcus Harris was on campus the same weekend Jaden O'Neal was on campus when Oklahoma wasn't even in his top 5? Do you think it was a coincidence that Mark Ihenikor moved up his official visit date to be on campus the same weekend that Jaden O'Neal is going to be on campus? That stuff isn't a coincidence. Kids want to play with him. They respect him as a recruit because they see the elite abilities that Jaden O'Neal brings on the field. And ultimately, there's only one guy that we've seen in Oklahoma as a recruit that's really been able to do that at an elite level. And that was Caleb Williams. Because if you remember, like, Caleb Williams was kind of hosting people himself at Oklahoma during a period where you couldn't host people. Like, Caleb Williams was doing it all. And if Jaden O'Neal is able to bring in that kind of leadership and that kind of swagger, the swagger that I think we kind of lost when you lost Baker, you sort of got it back with Caleb Williams, but because Caleb Williams went to USC, you didn't have it long. I think Jaden O'Neal has the ability to bring that back to Oklahoma in a role where I think it's the most important. The quarterback position as a recruit really helps develop these classes and get them rolling at a high level. Kevin Sperry, guys, 2025 has done a phenomenal job at helping getting the 2025 class together. Imagine what Jaden O'Neal is going to be able to do in 2026, especially with guys that are going to be potentially blocking for him and guys that he's going to be using as weapons. So Jaden O'Neal, he commits to the University of Oklahoma. And I truly, honestly believe this is a big-time get for Oklahoma. Seth Littrell finally gets, well, I'm not going to say finally, like, he gets his quarterback that he wants in his, I guess, first real recruitment as a offensive coordinator. This is a big deal for Oklahoma. And if you land another 5-star in the post-Lincoln Riley era, and by the way, Jaden O'Neal is right in the backyard of USC. So you went in to USC and stole another recruit from them, which you originally just did with Marcus Harris. And if you're an Oklahoma fan, you enjoy that. So, again, we're going to try to have, or we're not going to try to have, but there's a good chance we're going to have Jaden O'Neal on the show. So jump in the comments below, drop those questions, drop your name so we can give you credit for those. Hey, and if you guys have made it this far and you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and you hit that subscribe button.